Hello, welcome everyone. Give folks a minute to call in and log in. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Bread for the World Midwest Regional Webinar. See a few folks join in now. All right, thanks for those who are on and for taking some time to call and log in, some time out of your days to connect with all of us and learn about kind of what we're working on and how you can be a part of what we're doing here at Bread for the World. My name is Zach. I am, I think everyone on this call online knows me. I'm the regional organizer for the Midwest at Bread for the World. And I'm hosting today and hopefully everything will go smoothly without a hitch. Yeah, I do want to thank those of you for joining. You all have been invited because you've been a part of the work that we've done at Bread for the World in the last few years. And we're really thankful for that and excited to kind of have you on and to share with you an update on what we're working on and offer some next steps. And hopefully, I mean, some of this will be familiar to many of you. Hopefully there'll be something new, but above all, hopefully you'll have some inspiration and encouragement for the work ahead. So I'm going to take a few minutes just to go over the agenda, and then we'll say a prayer, and then we'll move forward. So hopefully everyone who's online can see the slides. And for those on the phone, sorry you're not able to, but I will follow up afterward with the information. So for our agenda this afternoon, we are going to talk a little bit about the offering of letters, the campaign that we're working on global nutrition, what it is, why it's important. We'll give you a legislative update, talk about this new global nutrition resolution that was introduced last month. And then we'll talk about the strategy that we'll be doing here in the Midwest to move this agenda forward and to work on global nutrition and hopefully pass this resolution. We will hear a story from Illinois, a story from the field, if you will, and then we'll kind of reiterate the next steps and hopefully have a few minutes for Q&A. And just a quick word on that. So for those of you who are on the webinar, who are with us online, I want to encourage you, if you do have a question, to use you should see a button that says Q&A. So please click that if you do have a question and submit it there, and that will come to me and our other two panelists. There is a chat function, but I want to encourage you to use the Q&A if you can. And for those on the phone, I apologize. There won't really be a way for you to ask questions. We're going to keep things muted up. I don't know about you, but I've had some experiences where I unmute everyone and then there's just too much background noise and no one can hear anything. Then I have to mute it again. And sometimes I'm that person. So just knowing from experience, we're going to kind of keep things muted and so we can kind of stay focused and on target. So those of you who are on the phone, not able to ask questions, be sure to follow up with me afterward. If you have my number or email, which you should, feel free to email or text me a question. And again, hopefully we'll get a few minutes at the end to address a few questions. But if your question does not get addressed or answered, rest assured we will be in touch afterward. So without further ado, let's open with a word of prayer. Those who are, again, online can see the prayer on the screen. So please follow along silently, and those on the phone, just follow along in your hearts. Let's pray. Most gracious and loving God, we celebrate and give you thanks for the tremendous progress made worldwide against hunger and malnutrition. Yet we know that there is much more to be done, especially during the 1,000-day period so critical to a child's health and future well-being. Each person is created in your image and deserves a fulfilling life that allows them to reach their full potential. Move our congressional leaders to make global nutrition programs a priority and to provide global leadership in ending hunger. Bless our advocacy efforts through letters, phone calls, emails, and visits to lawmakers with your grace and favor. May they move the hearts of Congress to do what is just and right. Amen. Amen. All right, so moving on. So for our 2019 Offering of Letters campaign, what it is and why it's important, those online can see we have a graphic up and some words that I will read out loud because I think it nicely encapsulates what we're doing and why it's important. Good nutrition in the 1,000 days between a woman's pregnancy and her child's second birthday sets the foundation for all the days that follow. So really, I think that's what we're doing here with this campaign. We're setting a foundation. We're laying a foundation for children, for this individual child and the family, their future family, their communities, and even their countries. We're laying a foundation with proper nutrition and trying to make that more of a reality for more children and families and communities. I want to read off of, we have some talking points that I'll be sharing with you all after the webinar, talking points for our Global Nutrition Campaign. I'm going to read just the opening paragraph as well because I think that kind of captures as well, gives an overview of kind of big picture what our campaign is. Some of you, this will be familiar already. Bread for the World is urging the U.S. government to strengthen its commitment on global maternal and child nutrition through increased funding, continued leadership, and by exploring new transformative approaches. Over the next 2 years, we will work with our members and partners to urge the U.S. government to make global nutrition a priority. Bread is asking Congress to provide $250 million for global nutrition in fiscal year 2020 and urging lawmakers to support House Resolution 189, a global nutrition resolution. We'll share a little bit more on that a bit later as well. But a little bit more on the kind of why it's important. I have one of my colleagues on the line. Her name is Jordan Teague. Some of you may be able to see her if you're with us online. Jordan is a senior international policy advisor with the Bread for the World Institute, and glad that she can join us. Jordan and I, in addition to being kind of an expert on all things related to nutrition, kind of our resident nutrition expert here at Bread, Jordan is a great trip planner and coordinator. I was privileged to join her for a trip to Nepal last year, and I would have been completely lost without Jordan's leadership and coordination on that. It's a tremendous experience, so thankful for that. But Jordan is just going to help give us a little bit of the broader context for this campaign. Jordan, it was just yesterday you emailed all of us here at Bread to let us know that there are new global child nutrition numbers that are available. Can you share those numbers with us and tell us what they mean?
Absolutely. So just recently, the annual numbers of the number of children who are stunted and who are wasted came out yesterday. And just as a quick reminder, children who are stunted are those who have experienced chronic malnutrition during their childhood and especially did not get the right nutrition during that 1,000-day period between pregnancy and the child's second birthday. Now, wasting is more of an acute malnutrition. It's an episode of when a child doesn't get enough to eat or enough of the proper nutrients, and those children can have episodic periods of acute malnutrition. From last year, 2 million fewer children are stunted around the world and 2 million fewer children are wasted around the world, which is great news. In past years, the number of children who are stunted have been going down, but the wasting number, the number of children who are acutely malnourished, had stayed stagnant until this year. So we're really excited that we've seen that decrease. This means that 149 million children around the world are stunted and 49 million children around the world are acutely malnourished. And while we are celebrating this progress, that again, 2 million fewer children are experiencing the consequences and the effects of malnutrition, we still have a long way to go.
Absolutely. So we're thankful, happy to see this progress moving in the right direction, but still far too many children stunted and experiencing wasting. So thanks for providing that overview for us. I know that I went to Nepal. We went to Nepal together last year, but you've continued to travel the world, and just got back recently from a trip to Kenya with a few Bread for the World colleagues as part of the Global Nutrition Campaign. I know you were there. And can you tell us, Jordan, about kind of what you were doing there, and what, if there's anything that we should know from your experience as it relates to our Global Nutrition Campaign?
Absolutely. So as you all know, the focus of this integrated campaign for global nutrition and this year's offering of letters is to accelerate progress on maternal and child nutrition. So a team of us went to Kenya this month to explore what's been happening in Kenya with nutrition, what has the country itself been doing in terms of policies, what have NGOs been doing, what's the US government been investing in, because Kenya has made much more rapid progress on stunting and wasting than some of its peer countries. In the last 5 years or so, Kenya has decreased stunting by a third, and it cut wasting in half. So something is going well in Kenya on nutrition. So 3 of us went to meet with government officials. We met with the UN. We met with USAID. We went and saw some World Food Program activities in refugee camps. We saw some agriculture and food security activities in the breadbasket of Kenya. And we're really able to get a lot of different perspectives on what's really been happening in Kenya to enable this progress. And we're still processing what we found. We've had a lot of different meetings and a lot of different interactions with communities and people who are benefiting from these programs. But the one thing that kept coming up in all of our meetings and in all of our visits was that the government of Kenya, from the national government, from the president, the first lady, all the way down to the governors of each county or some counties, to the local governments, had all committed to making nutrition a priority. They said they recognized that nutrition was a problem in Kenya and in their counties. They said they were going to do something about it, and they did. So the main message that I came back from Kenya with is that progress is possible when there is that political will and that action, and especially good governance and positive and accountable local governments as well.
Thanks so much for sharing that. That's really exciting to hear. Great to hear kind of your fresh perspectives, just fresh off this trip to Kenya and getting to see firsthand how what happens when leadership, when there is commitment there on the part of these countries. So thanks, Jordan. Thanks for sharing that with us, and
of course.
I look forward to kind of hearing, maybe reading more in the coming months after you've had more time to kind of process with your colleagues that trip.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So as I had shared, and I'm just going to kind of go through this quickly for you all, but Jordan, the world traveler, and I had been to Nepal together last year. I have a couple photos to share because I just like to share them whenever I can, just about this experience. But similar to what Jordan was sharing, but Nepal is a place that's also made wonderful and really early, pretty dramatic progress against malnutrition. This photo that those of you who are online with us can see is a cooking demonstration, a volunteer who's been trained with US $4 and $8, essentially, our tax dollars and programs that Bread has advocated for. This woman in blue is teaching these mothers how to prepare a nutritious meal for their children. So as part of kind of this effort to reduce malnutrition and lay that foundation. So we got to see that. We got to see a number of other kind of programs and meet individuals and families and communities that had benefited in Nepal as well. So, and then this photo, which I love, is a picture of, they're called FCHVs, Female Community Health Volunteers. And just like the woman in blue in the last photograph, these women have been, they're kind of leaders in their communities. They are just, members of their communities in Nepal, but they have been trained by USAID, our International Development Agency, again, with US tax dollars on kind of, skills and abilities to identify and address malnutrition and help teach mothers kind of better practices, and really be leaders in their communities to help individuals, families, and the communities as a whole reduce malnutrition. So it's good to see kind of that, how it's, in some ways it's kind of a grassroots effort. People who are already a part of their communities just receiving some training and some resources from the U.S. government, and how they can just take that and be a blessing and a benefit to their communities. So that was good to see there in Nepal. So I'll stay on that slide. I want to share one final quick story with you all before we go on to kind of the legislative update segment, and that is a fairly personal one for me here, and it's here in the U.S. But malnutrition, of course, is an issue anywhere and everywhere. It can be an issue anywhere, and we have some dear friends of ours who live a couple blocks away, and they're friends of ours through church. They have fostered and now adopted a little boy named Ty, and he's now about 2.5, just a few months younger than my own son, and they're best of friends. But Ty, his mother who had signed over rights, was not able to care for him, but she was herself, due to poverty, very malnourished during her pregnancy, skipping meals, eating pretty poorly at times, just did not have the resources, and in some ways did not have the knowledge to really lay that foundation for him. And he's probably six months to a year behind my own son Isaiah, and developmentally speaking. And it's very stark to see that. So again, and this is when he was in the womb, because our friends started fostering him and then adopted him, fostering him from birth. So this was purely just in utero. So I have that kind of testimony firsthand, just with our friends of how important that is. And again, just thinking, expanding that outward to, to other countries and globally, where resources are more scarce, and, they may not have the kind of access that many of us do here in the U.S. So yeah, that's a personal kind of, that really demonstrates to me, or reminds me of what we're doing here. And I think for everyone on this call and on the webinar, you probably all have some sort of story like that. And we're all here and probably doing as well as we are, thanks to people in our lives, our mothers, fathers, others who've invested in our own nutrition and have taken that seriously and given us the foundation that we need. So we can be thankful for that, and we can remember that we are, in this together. We are all God's children, and we want to help create the conditions so that other parents can give to their children what they need to lay that foundation as well. So I want to move on now to the legislative update and the resolution that you all probably know about a little bit and are excited to hear about. So on the legislative side, we've set out from the beginning of this year and in this campaign to focus on global nutrition, maternal and child nutrition. We knew that we would be asking for increased funding, and also that we would be supporting a legislation to make that more of a priority for the U.S. government, investing in to make nutrition more of a priority. So the first part of our campaign on the funding side, we are now asking for a $250 million investment in global nutrition, and that investment could reach more than 10 million women and 7 million children with nutrition programs. So that's up, I think it's an additional 100 million or so from the current level. So it's really, we're really asking for quite a bit. But again, if you set that in the broader context of the overall budget, it's not very much. And it's an investment that really pays off, a really good bang for your buck in terms of the nutrition dollars and how that leads to kind of increased better outcomes, better productivity in the future, and so on and so forth. So 250 million, but the biggest kind of ask and update right now is this resolution HRES 189, which those of you who are online with us can see the first part of it on your screens. This was introduced in early March by Congressman Roger Marshall, who's a Republican in Kansas. And then on the Democratic side, Jim McGovern, Democrat in Massachusetts. And this is, you can kind of see, for those of you who can see it on the screen, and I'm going to encourage actually all of you to actually read the resolution, believe it or not. It's only 2 pages, and so that might sound crazy, but it is. It's only 2 pages, and it kind of reads like a Bread for the World talking points document. It's not overly jargony, and that'll kind of give you a good foundation for advocating for this resolution. So I'll follow up with that afterward. But essentially, in the title, it says, recognizing the importance of sustained United States leadership to accelerating global progress against maternal and child malnutrition. And it goes on from there. But essentially, this resolution recognizes that the U.S. has played an important and lead role in the progress we've made so far, and calls on our government to continue and to increase that leadership, that support in addressing maternal and child malnutrition. So it's pretty straightforward. It's bipartisan already. There's 6 co-sponsors, Democrats and Republicans. We expect to see a number more sign on once Congress returns. They've been on a 2-week kind of in-district period around recess, and no one can co-sponsor during that time. So it's kind of been holding at 6, but we expect more to come on very soon. So in terms of our strategy too in the Midwest, we're really kind of modeling our strategy on the resolution after the successful work we did around the Global Food Security Act, which many of you on this call were a part of, and then the reauthorization of the Global Food Security Act just last year. That effort, both of those bills, the Global Food Security Act and the reauthorization bill, got over 100 co-sponsors each time. And Bread for the World members, including many of you on this call, helped get a big chunk of those co-sponsors and really push those bills across the finish line and to the president's desk for his signature. So that was exciting to be a part of that. And the strategy that we pursued, as some of you may recall, was actually pretty simple, and it was mainly just identifying 1, 2, maybe 3 Bread members in the different congressional districts and then in communication with the Bread organizer, identifying the right staff person to contact at the office, and then trying to strike up a conversation via email or phone and really just bring the bill to that staffer's attention, who can then bring it to the congressman's attention or congresswoman's attention. And in most cases, that was about enough. Once they kind of were able to look that over, and again, it was fairly short, not as short as this resolution, but many just were more than willing to sign on to it. It was not overly objectionable. And I think that will be the case this time around as well. So we're pursuing a similar strategy of kind of personal outreach, not necessarily high volume of calls, not necessarily quantity, but quality, and just trying to be a friendly constituent and bring this resolution, HRES 189, to their attention, ask them to look it over, share it with their boss, get back to us, get back to you with their thoughts. So that takes 1, 2, like I said, maybe 3 people reaching out in most cases, and then just kind of doing the follow-up work to try to get a response, which as we know can take some work, but when it happens, it's exciting. We really moved the needle last time, and we are excited to do that again with this resolution. So we're aiming for more than 100 co-sponsors again this time around, and I think we'll get there. So I'm excited about that, and that we'll talk just at the end, kind of recapping the next steps. But in terms of the strategy, and for all of you on this call, we're going to ask that you reach out to your representative and ask him or her to co-sponsor this resolution. There is a caveat, though, and that is we are pursuing kind of a Republicans first strategy. What we don't want to have happen is for it to become lopsided with, say, 50 Democrats on who've signed on and just a few Republicans or something, and then it makes it partisan politics being what they are, it more difficult to get the other party, whichever party that may be, to sign on if they see it's, if Republicans see this has too much Democrat support, or vice versa. It's harder. So we're trying to essentially pursue a 1-to-1 ratio of co-sponsors, but initially focusing primarily on Republicans. So for those of you who are in Democrat districts, do you have a friend who would be interested in doing this, who's member of Congress, whose representative is a Republican? Maybe we can be in touch on that. So in every case, I'd like to be in touch with each of you afterward to talk about this, and give you kind of the some of the talking points and figure out who the right person is to contact. But for those of you who have Democratic congressmen or women, sit tight for now, but do think about who you can ask, which friend who would be willing to do this, who has a Republican representative. And those who are in Republican districts, let's get ready to go on this, and now is the time to start pushing. So final point real quick on this, because people ask, what's going on the Senate side. And we have been working on this. My colleagues in DC have been trying to get something introduced on the Senate side, essentially the same resolution. And we're making good progress there. I think, hopefully shortly after they return next week to the Capitol, we will see something introduced. And again, we'll pursue kind of a similar, I think, Republicans first strategy. Many of you on this call have at least one Republican senator. Some of you don't. But again, the same kind of thing where if you don't, then just sit tight, but think about a friend who can do this as well. So that's still in the works, but the House one is, again, it's out there and it's open for co-sponsors, and we want to get over 100. So those of you on this call, we want you to be a part of this effort and kind of moving this forward here in the Midwest, where we have a real opportunity to move this resolution, and from there to show that this is something that Congress, that's important to Congress, and we can build on that and really make a difference for the children that Jordan mentioned earlier who are malnourished. So, okay, well, I'm going to shift gears now, and I don't see any questions yet. But again, remember, those who are online, feel free to submit a question via Q&A or text or email me one. I am going to also try my best to get us out of here at 12:45. So we will move toward that. But I'm excited to introduce Edith Avila Olea, who's going to talk for a few minutes about the offering of letters, which is kind of the other component to what we've been working on and what we're going to ask you all to do moving forward, in addition to working on the resolution, an actual offering of letters, letter writing event. Edith is the Justice and Peace Associate Director at the Office for Human Dignity in the Roman Catholic Diocese of Joliet. It's kind of a mouthful. But Edith and I have worked together. It's been a real blessing to work with her with a number of parishes around the Bread for the World offering of letters for a few years now. Bread and the Joliet Diocese have a few decade history, I think, of working together. And Edith and I more recently have been kind of partnering in an offering of letters campaign work since Edith came on board. Edith, I think this is your second, we're in the midst of kind of your second offering of letters campaign since you started in your role with the Joliet Diocese. Wondering if you can just give us a snapshot of how the diocese conducts the campaign, the offering of letters kind of advocacy campaign, and what it means to you and the lay leaders who are a part of it. If you're on there. Okay.
I hope everyone can hear me. Nice to virtually be with everyone. So the way that the campaign works is basically in three parts. First, we coordinate with our parishes to provide a training And we encourage all leaders to come to the training every year. The reason for it is, one, because of the theme changing, and really it's where we learn the best practices, both from for new parishes that might be joining in this year or the following year, and then also because pastors change, and a lot of the outreach that happens within the parish a lot of times depends on the pastor and his willingness to let us promote the letter campaign. And so we have about 12 to 15 parishes, and then a few schools. We try to work with our Catholic colleges to do the letter writing campaign as well. And so at the training, we basically give them an overview of the theme, how to conduct the letter campaign at their parish, everything including from the bulletin inserts to the promotion to the different ways that parishes do it at their church. Some do it right after Mass, some do it in the pews. And so we try to promote really the diversity that exists within our parishes and the way that they conduct the letter campaign. And then we encourage them to do it within the next few months. And really, depending on the church, that can vary from Easter season, especially this year, the timing was a little bit different than last year. And then we have a couple of parishes. So we have had parishes that have already done the campaign, and then parishes that are still going to do the campaign. The second step is really encouraging our leaders to work the campaign at their local parish. And so this year, one of the things I think that changed at the parishes is that a lot of them are deciding to do a blessing the following week or 2 weeks later after the campaign, so that the parishioners themselves can see how many letters they're collecting. And on average, a parish will collect anywhere from 200 to 400 letters, and so collectively we're collecting about close to 6,000 letters annually from our diocese. And so it's something that we're really proud of and that we know works for our churches, because food and hunger is something that people from all sides can come to the table for. And so we've seen occasions where the parishioners themselves at times have needed some of the asks that we're petitioning for or requesting from our senators. And so it's really a neat experience to see that it's not just something that we're doing for a brother and sister that we might not know. A lot of times there are close connections within our own parishes and churches. And so then we actually bring all of the letters to the diocese. So this is kind of like the third step. We bring them back to the diocese and we have a huge celebration dinner. We collect them and we can literally see the pile of letters on the tables as they're coming in, and we invite our leaders to bring a guest or two. And really it's just a joyful moment to see the work that we've done over the months, to really see. A lot of times in social justice, you don't really get to see your work in a very tangible way. And with the letters, it's the complete opposite. You can see the results, you can see the smile, and you can hear the stories right after. And so we allow our leaders to share something different that might have happened this year, or a story that they might have been touched when they were doing their campaign at their local parish. And then we do a huge blessing. And something that we started doing last year, which we will continue this year, is that then we ask for volunteers to help us coordinate with our legislative visits. And so then our leaders get to experience delivering those letters to the state legislature, or federal, or the senator or the representative themselves. And they really get to share the work of their parish with the representative or their senator. It's a full circle experience, really, where you see something it's kind of grassroots led by the people, and then they get to take their voice to the representatives. And for me, that's one of my favorite parts. The dinner is absolutely fabulous, but to really be able to deliver the voice of the church, it's a really unique experience, and it gives them legislative experience and motivation to really speak up on other issues that might be important. And so we have, through some of this training that we've done for the legislative visits and for the bread, we actually have a group of incredible leaders that could, honestly, they could run the program without us, because that's just how well trained they are, and how they know the mission very well. And so we then invite some of them, if they, we don't usually get a lot of people to go to DC for the advocacy summit in Earth Bread's advocacy summit in DC. It's in June. But we did get a couple of people to go last year. So those who can, we try to help them to get, to then take this local experience at the federal level in DC.
That's great. Thanks so much for sharing that, Edith. And I'm excited that, Edith, you'll be joining us for the Advocacy Summit and Lobby Day this year to represent the diocese. And but yeah, that's I've been excited and blessed, and I know Bread for the World is thankful to the Joliet Diocese and to you and the work that you all have done. And, for those of you on this call, for most of us, I think, where the Joliet Catholic Diocese is at with the offering letters is a step or two or three beyond others. And, and it's great. And it's actually the kind of vision that we're hoping to move congregations and parishes toward as a more kind of a coordinated or collective effort so it's not just a single congregation or parish, but kind of multiple parishes, multiple congregations working together. And that may or may not be possible for those of you on this call and kind of your situations, but it's certainly something that we want to encourage and inspire you all to consider in your own particular circumstances and synods, conferences, whatever your denomination may be, or other dioceses. So I do think that, it's in my experience with the Joliet Catholic Diocese, it's just been encouraging, or it's been inspiring to see how others are encouraged by doing this, that being a part of something bigger, I should say. So that's something that's come up again and again, of just people like knowing that they're connected with others who are doing the same thing. So thanks again, Edith. Thanks for being on and sharing with us about that. So that's a good segue, I would say, and I do see a few questions and also a hand raised as well. I think Cindy raised her hand, and maybe if you can type that in the Q&A, Cindy, if you're able. But I'm going to move on to the next steps before we kind of send you all off, and again, try to get us out of here by 12:45, which I may actually do. So if we can, there we go. So next steps, basically stuff we've already covered, but again, read the resolution. Seriously, really do. I don't think there's a little bit at the end that's a little bit wonky, but overall, you might actually find it sort of interesting, as I did, and it's it sort of speaks for itself in terms of the talking points for what it is and why it's important. It's not, it's not a 1,000-page bill like we hear about in the news. So do read that, and I will send the link afterward. But that'll be helpful as we're doing outreach to encourage our members of Congress to support it. And then number two, after reading that, again, with the caveat that I had shared earlier about Democrats and Republicans, ask your representative to co-sponsor it. And again, let's you and I be in touch all of us individually be in touch about, if you have a Republican representative, and I can get you the contact information for who to contact and a bit of information on the talking points. And then we'll kind of pursue that. And again, if you have a Democratic representative, think about friends, maybe you have friends in more than one Republican district that would be willing to do this and interested to do this, and we can explore that as well. And then the final thing, and kind of which I'm appreciative for Edith for sharing the Joliet Diocese's perspective, we do want to encourage you to hold an offering of letters, a letter writing event, as you all know, and that's certainly part of Bread's bread and butter, no pun intended, in terms of how we do advocacy, and the combination of the letters and then the personal outreach around this resolution and on global nutrition can be really, really impactful. So again, work with us on the resolution, hold an offering of letters if you haven't already, whenever you can this year. I mean, it will be, this campaign that we're doing is going to, with the global nutrition issue, is going to go on and have various stages. So letters will be helpful and important throughout the year. So on that, I'm going to see, we have a few final minutes to take some questions, and I got a few that I think will be helpful to others as well that I'm going to try to address. So from Lois Johnson, I'm actually sitting in the basement of Lois Johnson's church right now here in Crystal Lake. They've been gracious to give me office space. My home is not a very good environment with having young children for a call like this. But Lois Johnson asks, how does the legislative strategy affect their offering of letters on May 5th? And she says that both districts that her church covers have Democratic representatives. And so how does the strategy that we're pursuing affect Lois's offering of letters? And then this is a good question for others of you on this call who either are holding an offering of letters soon or might be or are thinking about it. So the strategy, we be sure to check out the offering of letters page, www.bread.org/OL, for the updated kind of sample letter text. And I believe that the sample letter, it should now include mention of the global nutrition resolution. But I think given that these are letters we're talking about, they won't get to the Democratic representatives right away. I think you should do write the letter mentioning the resolution and encouraging them to co-sponsor it. And then we'll still have a few weeks between now and when they receive it to get more Republicans to sign on. So the strategy, it's, the letters are, it's a multi kind of part strategy. The letters help us in our personal outreach on the resolution and vice versa. So thanks, Lois, for the question and for doing the offering of letters in a couple weeks. And we can certainly be in touch offline to further tweak that. But again, the information at the offering of letters website should be good for you all to use for your letters, whether you have Democratic or Republican representatives. And then we have a question from Tim in Lincoln, Nebraska, about the names and contact info of webinar participants in his community. And I'm not sure if there are any others, Tim, I'm sorry to say, in your community, but just for everyone, there may be. But I will follow up with kind of the information, or at least the locations, and try to put those of you in touch who are in kind of similar places, and so everyone knows kind of who participated and from where. So that's a great question, Tim, and we can be in touch to hopefully get some others from Lincoln, Nebraska on next time. And let me see. Okay, Cindy, yes, I see your chat. And I got one final question as well. So let's see. Cindy asks, good question, how long will the resolution be open? And she's asking that in consideration with when to schedule her offering of letters. Great question. It's entirely possible that your Congresswoman Wagner, Cindy, hopefully will be a co-sponsor soon. And however, so it may be that that's already taken care of by the time you write letters, or it may not be. But regardless, we have that $250 million ask focus for the campaign. We have just the more broadly, I mean, if she's already a co-sponsor, we can thank her with the letters. And so, and she says her congregation covers a Democratic district as well. So, again, I mean, the resolution, we're not totally sure. We want to get a big list of co-sponsors, like I said, over 100 before it passes. We expect that it will pass eventually. I'm not sure when, actually. I can try to look into that. But regardless, any one of you who wants to schedule an offering of letters, please be in touch with me. Check out the website so I can make sure we get the most up-to-date information before you write. We're getting a bunch more questions, and we're at 12:45. So let me see if I can take 30 seconds to address them, and if not, I will follow up with those whose questions I didn't get to. Okay, so there's one, Jim, we'll follow up afterward. I think it's a good question, but I think I better address in person. And best way to approach, Eric Hansen asks, best way to approach having an offering of letters when you're in a congregation that's split between 2 congressional districts. Great question, Eric. And I think some of the other questions have already come from churches covering multiple congressional districts. And it's, there's a few ways to do that. You can, if it gets too cumbersome to focus just on the congressional districts, you can aim for the senators instead. And because obviously pretty much everyone's going to have, unless you're on a state line, everyone's going to have the same 2 senators. Or you can, work with a group of kind of lay leaders to help folks based on kind of their community, or even if you have a laptop available, figure out which district the person's in, maybe have letters prepared in advance for the 2 different representatives. So different ways of approaching it. We can be in touch offline as well, but great question. And we're a minute over, so I'm going to have to sign us off here, end the conversation. But I know some of you may still have questions or want to continue the conversation. Let's do that. Let's definitely do that. And I want to thank you, everyone, for being a part of this. Thanks for calling in, taking some time to listen, to learn, to ask some great questions. And let's move forward. So we have a huge opportunity on this resolution and on this campaign to make a big difference for children, for mothers, in terms of their nutrition and laying a foundation. So let's be foundation layers together in the coming months. Let's all be in touch. Be in touch with me, please. And again, thanks for your time. God bless you. Easter blessings. Jesus is risen. Thank you so much. Look forward to talking soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.